Hi everybody. So today I'm talking to Kirsty Williams. Kirsty is a Lib Dem politician in the Welsh Assembly. She represents the constituency of Brecon and Radnorshire. She's currently the Minister for Education in Wales as part of the coalition government there, as well as having spent time as the leader of the Welsh Liberal Democrats. While many politicians have to wait decades to see and understand the impact of their time in office, Kirsty's overseen the introduction of reforms to higher education in Wales under the Diamond Review. This has made maintenance loans for part-time students available, leading to immediate huge increases in the number of people studying part-time in Wales, and particularly at the OU. It's therefore fantastic to be able to find out from Kirsty how this sort of positive change can be achieved and what the future looks like for OU students in Wales. Kirsty, thank you so much for giving up your time to talk to OU students. I know they'll really appreciate it. So we've got a few questions. So first of all, for our non-Welsh members, could you briefly explain the reforms that the Welsh Government has implemented for part-time learners as a result of the Diamond Review, please?
Of course, Cath, and I'm delighted to be with you today. A huge fan of all the work that the OU does in Wales. They're key partners, and very grateful to be spending some time with you. From the 2018-2019 academic year, the Welsh Government introduced what I believe is the most generous support system for students in the United Kingdom as a result of the recommendations of the Diamond Review, which means that all Welsh students, whether they're studying at undergraduate, full-time or part-time or postgraduate level, receive support for their living costs equivalent to the UK national living wage. So for part-time students, our support is on a pro rata basis that is equivalent to that if they were studying full-time. And I'm delighted to say that support has been able to unleash what we knew was a demand for students who wanted to study on a part-time basis. So we've seen a significant increase in the number of students in Wales receiving part-time support, and which is wonderful. And even more satisfying to me, 50% of the part-time students are entitled to our full level of support, which is a grant of £4,000 per year, which just demonstrates how living costs is a real barrier to students fulfilling their potential and fulfilling their academic ambitions. But the change to the support system and the recognition of the importance of part-time study has really allowed us to unleash that potential. So that's great news, I believe, for those individuals. But for me as the Minister, it's also great news for the future of our nation. We want to increase the skill levels of the population in Wales. We want people to be able to learn at any point throughout their lives, because if we allow that, it means a really prosperous future for our economy and our nation, as well as the impact that has on individuals.
Thank you. I think it's absolutely brilliant news for the students in Wales. You've done that. I just wish we could convince the ones in the other nations to be doing it as well, but it's fantastic. So I think you've answered my second question, which was about the motivation and rationale for doing it, about developing the skills, etc., across the nation. Could I also ask, what role did part-time students in Wales play in helping you to understand the issues and challenges around part-time learning? And did the OU and any OU students contribute to that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were very conscious that part-time study had fallen quite sharply. And on coming into office, I pledged that we would have an education reform programme that I described as our national mission. And whilst much of the focus of that is indeed on our school system, then reforms in higher education finance support is also an important part of that. So very much so, the voice of the Open University and those students that had previously benefited from studying with the Open University was a very important part of feeding into the Diamond Review, and then discussing with me how important it was to honour the recommendations made in Diamond, and we were very happy to do so, because I recognise that students come in all shapes and sizes, and even in my own family, although he didn't study with the OU, my own uncle, who left school at the age of 16 with very few formal qualifications, spent the next couple of decades of his life working in building sites, being routinely laid off every time there was a downturn in the economy. And he went back to night school and did a GCSE and proved to himself that he could do that, then did an A-level. And on the morning he received his A-level, he was made redundant once again. And he walked to his local Institute of Higher Education and said, what have you got? What can I do? And that experience transformed his life. And he was lucky. He was in a position where he could go full time. But so, in my own family, I know that the opportunity to learn comes at different points in people's lives. That motivation, that ability comes at different points. And we need to facilitate that so that nobody's ambition, anybody that can benefit from higher levels of study, shouldn't be unable to do that because of a lack of financial means. And I know that this isn't the answer to all of it, but I hope, and the figures demonstrate, that this has been a partial answer at least.
The growth in numbers has been fantastic, hasn't it? Particularly, the widening participation. It's brilliant.
Absolutely, because we know not only is the overall number of students studying, that's great in itself, but we do know that those students are coming from some of our most deprived communities, from our communities that don't generally see high levels of participation in higher education. And so that's really, really encouraging. So it's really increasing the diversity as well, which is really important. And I also think as well that if those students, those learners have family members, it's such a powerful motivation as well, isn't it? For perhaps if they've got children studying together and demonstrating the value of studying to perhaps your children. I think it's really powerful. It's really, really powerful to see older students learning. But of course, increasingly, the OU is operating for younger people as well, where people are making a very positive choice to study part-time as opposed to taking perhaps more traditional routes.
Absolutely. Did you encounter any opposition to introducing the reforms?
Student finance reforms are never easy, and I say that as a member of the Liberal Democrats. And so there, of course, these can be challenging. But I think the Diamond Review was very powerful. It made a very coherent case. Stakeholders were very helpful in helping us communicate why change was necessary and why the system would be better. So actually, it went remarkably smoothly in terms of its introduction, when you consider what a significant change the policy as a whole introduced. So very fortunate, and very fortunate actually to have the support of the National Union of Students also, who recognised that it's those upfront living costs which can be a real barrier to students learning and to participation.
Oh, that's really good to hear. I know we're chancing our arm here, but are there any further reforms or policies in the pipeline that students in Wales might benefit from in the coming years?
Oh my goodness me. As you can imagine, our reform agenda has in some ways been impacted by the current crisis that we find ourselves in. People may be aware that we were intending to legislate to create a new commission that would oversee all post-compulsory education and training in Wales going forward. And unfortunately, that bill will now be published in a draft form and won't proceed as we would have hoped. But we continue to work with the sector as a whole to widening access to further and higher education, and to ensure that anybody that can benefit from it has the opportunity to do so. We're also exploring how we could create a right to lifelong learning in Wales, and how you could legislate for that right and what that would mean in reality. And of course, support for part-time study is an important element of that as we begin to take that work forward. We're also looking at how we can ensure that that people of all ages are supported. One of the challenges is around older students, and in terms of access to loans, where we can't do anything about that because our hands are tied by Treasury rules. So we have made an additional pot of money made available for postgraduate older students over the age of 60 who previously had no recourse really to financial assistance. So so even with COVID-19 and the constraints that that's putting upon us, we continue to look to push forwards reform where we can, and to really, and the OU has always got this, understood it within their DNA, but to ensure that all of our higher education institutions rediscover their sense of civic mission, and making sure that not only are they world-leading institutions that attract the very best of research, but they're also serving their community and recognising the importance that they have as an institution within their own community, and providing opportunities for local people in a variety of ways to benefit from having a university amongst them in their midst.
That sounds brilliant. Makes me want to move to Wales for sure.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I'd love to come. Not too far up the road in Birmingham. And just to finish, how can OU students influence policy debates in Wales and ensure that the voice of part-time learners are heard? Because we know that obviously institutions tend to be heard, but actual individual students, how could they get involved more?
Well, I would welcome that very much indeed. There has never been, I don't think, a better time for voices of all kinds to be heard in the public sphere of debate, and especially at this time of significant disruption caused by the pandemic, and also, you know, the protests we've seen in recent weeks. So I would encourage students of all kinds to participate in the decision making of Wales. We as a government, we consult widely on our policy reforms and our agenda, and we welcome the challenge and the input and the ideas from people's lived experience. Because if we do that and we do it well, I always think we come up with a better policy solution in the end. So I would encourage all students to continue to keep an eye on what we're doing, and to contribute, and as I said, to challenge and to help shape their future and their nation's future.
That's great. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It's lovely to see you.
And you. Thanks a lot. Bye.